Okay, 1.4. So we're going to continue talking about segments and angles. We've been kind of talking about all the different possible things we can do here. Should have already done the scavenger hunt quiz, and we talked about the difference between midpoint, segment bisector, and angle bisector. Basically, again, it's what it's doing. If it's a midpoint, it's just a point, right, that cuts a segment in half. If it's a segment bisector, it's cutting a segment. If it's an angle bisector, it's cutting an angle. And again, bisector, bi means two, right? Like bicycle. That's two wheels, right? So a bisector cuts something into two equal segments. It's really important to understand. Cutting something in half cuts something into two equal chunks. Very important to understand for our equations here. Let's go ahead and look at example 1. So again, we're starting off super easy here. We are given that the ray FH bisects the angle. Once again, that means cuts in half. Very important to memorize that definition. Given that EFG, so this whole thing is 120. If you see something like that where it's one curve, as opposed to like usually they try and do like two separate curves, yeah, this means this is the whole angle is 120. One big curve, EF to G. EF to G is 120. Otherwise, again, they'll try and separate it into two little chunks here. It says, what are the measures of the other two angles? So to start with, let's practice this. Let's name the other two angles. We need what's this angle, and we need what's this angle. Those are the two angles they're referring to. So take a minute, name those two angles, write it off to the side. We got the red angle, and we got the green angle. What are those names? Okay, well, we got E to F to H. E to F to H, that's the red angle. And we have G to F to H. As always, you know that you can flip-flop the outside letters. The F just has to stay in the middle because that's the vertex. But let's think this through, though it's not hard. You might already know the answer. If the whole angle is 120 degrees, and what they are telling me is the whole angle is cut in half. What are the two halves? Think about that for a second. Write it down. Well, if 120 is cut in half, that means we divide it by 2. That means each of these angles have to be 60 degrees. If the whole thing is 120, then each of these angles have to be 60. Be very careful, guys, as we start to put these questions together, though. They have to tell us something is cut in half to be able to say this. If they don't say something is bisected or cut in half, we can't make any assumptions of if it is actually cut in half. We would do something else if that were the case. Let's go ahead and try the next one. Example 2. Now, what I want you to do is draw this picture. This will happen sometimes, guys, and it's hard. That's bisect. Good Lord. Need to fix these notes. Sometimes you're not going to be given a picture, but you have to draw the picture because depending on what they're giving you, you're going to do something different. So take a moment. We have JK cutting HJL in half. What I want you to do is draw angle HGL first. I'll kind of give you a little start here. Label this angle HGL and then cut it in half with JK. What would that look like? Okay, so here's what it was. H to J to L, H to J to L. Hey, there's angle HGL. And JK bisects it. Now you might wonder, like, well, where's K? Well, K needs to be placed so that I'm cutting my angle in half, right? That's going to be point K because JK cuts my whole angle in half. Now that we have this picture, label on your picture where this is going to go. Read very carefully. Make no assumptions. H to J to K, where is that angle? Well, H to J to K, H to J to K is this angle right here is 42 degrees. So they've not given us the whole angle. They only gave us half, right? We know it's half because they tell us the word bisect. Bisect means cut in half. So this is half. So what I want you to write down is I want you to tell me the measure of that angle. We also need the measure of the whole angle here, HJL. we need both of those things. So what is the name of this letter here? HJK. Oh, for Pete's sake. Ignore that. I'm asking for HJL and the measure of the blue angle. I'll go ahead and name that, though. That's KJL. What are the measures of these two angles? Given that half here is 42, what's this angle, and then what's the whole thing? Well, KJL is just the other half. It has to also be 42 degrees. That's because we were given the half, and KJL is the other half. So if HJL, what's up? That's fine. Don't mind me. I'm just recording a video. But I'm almost done.
No worries.
I know, it's all wet, so it's up there everywhere. So again, HJL is going to be the whole thing. So this whole thing here has to be those two added together, or 42 doubled, however you want to look at it, 84 degrees. So again, this is why it's so important that you guys look at the picture and label. Again, you can't make assumptions based on what they're giving you. We could be saying, oh, here's the whole angle and now find the pieces. Or we could say, here's a piece, now find the whole. And you don't know that unless you label your information on the picture. Now, the last question we're going to do, if you guys can skip to example 5, the last question we're going to do is some algebra, but it's really simple and we've done things like this before. And so I want to try it once and then we'll keep practicing in class. So always read what they tell you. It says line GH is the segment bisector. Once again, that means cut in half. For line segment EF. So EF is the one getting cut in half. GH is doing the slicing. EF is the one cut in half. If EF is cut in half, what does that tell us about these two pieces here if EF is being cut in half right there? Those two pieces have to be equal. We can say congruent, but it means the same thing. That is the definition of when you cut something in half. They are equal. So, hey, that's my equation. Guys, again, if you can say this out loud, you can write your equation. These two pieces are equal. I can set them equal to each other. That is our equation. So take a minute to practice solving this. We got variables on both sides, so we got to move everything over to one side. Move our x's over to one side and go from there. So I'm going to choose to move the 5x over. And again, because I'm moving all of 5x over, I'm subtracting it. We got 5x minus 7 equals 23. Now that I have my x over here, I want to start moving things away from the x now. So I'm going to add the 7. I've got 5x equals 30. We divide by 5. And then we get x equals 6. Now I want you to try this on your own, but I'm going to go ahead and end the video. They do want you to go back and plug your 6 in to EM and MF. Get in the habit of doing that because on your tests, on your homeworks, they're always going to ask you to go back and plug in. So here's x equals 6. Plug it into both of these where we see an x. And then that's your final answer. But like I said, I'm going to go ahead and end the video here to keep it short. You can check with me and see if you're getting the correct thing. We're going to come back together and try these a couple more times.